Welcome to my Chanel Soft Feminine. I never thought one evening could change everything. Yet here I was sitting on my couch staring at a small, innocuous package that had arrived earlier that day. The brown cardboard box looked ordinary, almost boring, but my chest thumped in a way I hadn't felt in years. It's just a little fun, I told myself. Nothing serious. Just try it. The scissors in my hand felt heavier than usual. My fingers trembled slightly as I sliced through the tape. Inside, folded neatly, were the clothes I had secretly ordered weeks ago. Blouses with soft chiffon, skirts that flowed like water, delicate lace that seemed almost forbidden in my world of jeans and hoodies. The fabrics brushed against my fingers, cool and electric. I hesitated, heart hammering. Just try it. Just for tonight. I carried the pieces to my bedroom like they were fragile artifacts. The room smelled faintly of my shampoo and the lingering scent of coffee from earlier. But now it felt charged, intimate, like it was holding its breath with me. I began to change. Slowly. Deliberately. The fabric slid over my skin, soft and strange, and I shivered at the sensation. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye mid-movement and I froze. It wasn't a costume. It wasn't pretending. I saw her, me, but not the me I had known. My shoulders were softer, more fluid, the way they held themselves demanded attention without trying. My arms rested gently, hands relaxed, as if I'd discovered muscles I had never used. My face, my own, looked familiar and foreign all at once. There was a softness in my jawline, a gentleness in my gaze, a subtle tilt of the head that I had never noticed. I look like her, I whispered, my voice cracking. The words felt foreign on my tongue. I told myself it was just a phase, just a fleeting curiosity I could tuck away like the clothes themselves. But deep inside, a spark had ignited, electric, undeniable, urgent. I moved closer to the mirror, tracing the lines of my face with my fingers, as if I could convince myself that this wasn't real. My fingers trembled as they brushed against my cheeks, over the curve of my jaw, along the delicate slope of my nose. Each touch sent a shiver down my spine. Why does this feel so right? I asked myself, heart racing. Why does it feel like I'm finally breathing? I sat on the edge of the bed staring at her, at me. Every instinct screamed to stop, to put the clothes away, to retreat to safety, to return to the version of me that had existed for years in shadows. But something else, a curious, braver part, whispered back. Keep going. See it through. You need to see this. I picked up a soft blouse and slid it over my shoulders again, feeling the fabric cling and flow in ways that made my pulse spike. I adjusted a skirt around my waist, spinning slightly just to see the movement. The way it caught the light, the way it swished softly against my legs, made my chest tighten, not with fear but with excitement I couldn't name. Leaning closer to the mirror, I caught my own reflection in profile. The tilt of my head, the gentle curve of my lips, the soft fall of my hair. It was intoxicating. I could hardly believe it was me. My breath caught. What if this isn't just tonight? I whispered to the empty room, voice trembling. What if this is me? The thought lingered, terrifying and thrilling at once. I had never allowed myself to imagine it. I had buried it beneath routine, beneath fear, beneath years of quiet denial. And now it was staring back at me, alive, undeniable, demanding to be seen. I laughed softly, nervously. The sound was strange to my own ears, high, light, a little unsure, but it was real. I ran my fingers over the fabric one last time, feeling the texture, the smoothness, the subtle power it seemed to radiate. The evening stretched ahead, full of possibilities and unknowns. My reflection didn't frighten me anymore. It welcomed me. And for the first time in years I realized that the person staring back at me, the one I had buried, was ready to step into the world, even if just for one evening. The morning light spilled into my apartment, warm and golden, but it felt unfamiliar, like the world had shifted while I slept. Everything outside was the same. The hum of traffic, the neighbor's dog barking, the distant clatter of construction. But I was different. I felt it in every inch of my body, in the way my chest rose and fell, in the subtle tension in my shoulders. Even making coffee felt strange. My hands lingered on the mug longer than necessary, the steam curling against my fingers. I caught glimpses of myself in the kitchen window, the chrome of the coffee machine, the dark screen of my laptop, and each reflection made my heart jump. Who is that? I thought. Who is looking back at me? At work, the shift in me became painfully obvious. Each step down the hallway felt like walking a tightrope. I noticed the way people glanced, sometimes lingering too long, sometimes darting away. Whispers seemed amplified, their meaning twisted and personal. Every laugh, every casual conversation, carried a weight I hadn't expected. "Hey, you okay?" a colleague asked, stopping at my desk. Her tone was gentle, concerned, and it made my stomach knot. Yeah, just tired," I said too quickly, the words harsh and clipped. My voice sounded strange to me, tighter, almost defensive. She studied me, tilting her head slightly. "You seem different," she said softly. The word hit me like a slap. Different? Do they see it too? Can they tell? Heat rushed to my face, prickling across my ears. I clenched my hands under my desk, trying to steady the tremor I couldn't hide. "I'm fine," I repeated, forcing a smile that felt brittle. It didn't work. Every movement, every word, every forced expression felt like a performance. I was straddling two worlds. The version of me that everyone expected, neutral, careful, unseen, and the version of me that had shimmered in the mirror the night before, soft, alive, and electric. I went through the day in a haze, aware of every glance, every whisper, every slight pause. Lunch felt unbearable. The cafeteria suddenly seemed like a stage. People walked past, some glancing, some ignoring me, but every interaction made my chest tighten. By the time I returned home, my body ached, not from work but from the constant strain of pretending. My fingers trembled slightly as I fumbled with my keys. And yet, even through the exhaustion, my gaze drifted inevitably to the drawer where the clothes waited. The soft fabrics called to me in a way I could no longer ignore. Each piece seemed alive, humming with potential. My pulse quickened, a mixture of anticipation and fear flooding my senses. "It's calling me," I whispered into the quiet apartment, my voice trembling. I can't not answer. I knew the safe thing was to push it away, to bury the curiosity and the thrill beneath routine and habit. But the spark in me, the part that had tasted that reflection, that softness, that thrill, was insistent. That evening, I returned to my sanctuary, my hands brushing over the fabric as if seeking reassurance. The apartment smelled faintly of my perfume, the lingering coffee, and something unnameable, something intimate. My pulse raced as I prepared to step back into the version of myself I had glimpsed, and for the first time, I understood the danger and the exhilaration of walking between two worlds. The mirror waited, and this time I was ready. Night fell like a velvet curtain, and I made sure the lights in the apartment were dimmed, softening the edges of the world. The quiet felt intimate, almost conspiratorial, as if the walls themselves were holding a secret with me. I approached the drawer where the clothes waited, my heart hammering with anticipation. Silk, chiffon, lace, each piece whispered promises of something forbidden yet thrilling. I hesitated, letting my fingers hover over them, savoring the textures. "Just one more time," I murmured. "Just tonight." I changed slowly, reverently, treating each motion as if I were learning a language I'd forgotten. The blouse slipped over my shoulders like water, clinging softly to my skin. The skirt settled around my waist, swishing gently with each movement. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye and I froze, not with fear this time but with awe. It was her, me, but in a version I had never dared imagine. My posture softened, my shoulders relaxed, and my head tilted in ways I hadn't realized could feel natural. My hands rested lightly at my sides, and even the smallest gestures carried a subtle elegance. I picked up the makeup kit I had bought in secret, my fingers trembling with anticipation. Eyeliner first, clumsy at first, uneven strokes that made me laugh nervously at myself. Then mascara, a careful sweep over lashes that transformed my eyes, making them wider, brighter, alive. Finally, a hint of lip color, delicate and soft, enhancing rather than concealing. I leaned back, studying my reflection. The woman in the mirror was radiant, delicate, yet strong. Every tiny adjustment, the tilt of my head, the subtle curve of my lips, the sway of my skirt, felt like reclaiming a part of myself I had buried long ago. Curiosity pushed me further. I experimented with movement, walking slowly around the room, testing the sway of my hips, the lightness in my step. Each motion felt revolutionary, like discovering muscles I hadn't known existed. My heartbeat quickened as I caught glimpses of the reflection in the mirror. Alive, vibrant, undeniably real. I tried different combinations of outfits, layering fabrics and textures, seeing how colors complemented my skin, how textures responded to light. Each small discovery thrilled me. A soft blouse against my arm, the subtle shine of silk, the way lace traced delicate patterns against my collarbone, all became tools of exploration, a language without words that spoke directly to my soul. My voice, too, became part of the experiment. I whispered to myself, trying a slightly higher pitch, a softer cadence. I laughed softly, tested gentle expressions, watched how the mirror responded. The reflection wasn't mocking or judging. It mirrored me, encouraged me, welcomed me. Night after night, I returned to this sanctuary. It became a ritual, a secret space where I could explore without fear. Each evening, I grew bolder, more deliberate, more attuned to the nuances of her, the version of myself I had only glimpsed in fleeting moments. I was learning patience with my own reflection, learning to delight in details that had gone unnoticed for years. The curve of a shoulder, the softness of a hand, the way fabric flowed across skin. Each discovery was a small victory, a quiet affirmation that this, she, was not an illusion but a truth I had long denied. And as I stood before the mirror, breathing softly, brushing my fingers along the delicate fabrics in my own skin, I realized something profound. This wasn't about pretending. It wasn't about a costume or a game. It was about meeting myself. Really meeting myself, for the first time in a lifetime. The reflection no longer startled me. It welcomed me. It whispered, "You belong here." And I knew in that quiet, stolen moment that I was ready for more. The first time I left my apartment dressed like her, the air felt heavier, more charged than ever. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to retreat to safety, to hide under the familiar armor of jeans and a hoodie. My pulse pounded in my chest and my hands shook as I gripped the doorknob. Just one step, I whispered to myself. Just one step outside. The hallway stretched before me, dimly lit, familiar yet suddenly foreign. Every reflection in the polished elevator walls made me pause, study myself, adjust the tilt of my head, the curve of my shoulders. My breath hitched. I felt fragile and strong at once, exposed yet empowered. Stepping onto the street was like stepping into a different world. The city pulsed around me, oblivious to my internal storm. Cars honked, people laughed, footsteps echoed. Every movement felt amplified. Every glance, every subtle reaction from passers-by, made my chest tighten. Then it happened. A woman walking past me, a stranger, smiled. "Cute outfit," she said casually as if commenting on the weather. Heat surged through me, warmth rushing to my cheeks. Her smile was genuine, effortless, and it shattered the fear that had gripped me. Someone sees me, and they like what they see. I ducked into a nearby cafe, nerves and exhilaration coursing through me. My hands trembled as I placed my order, repeating my name for the barista. She smiled warmly, no pause, no judgment, just acceptance. It was a simple gesture, but to me it felt monumental. Over the next few weeks, I pushed myself further. I walked streets I had never dared traverse, visited coffee shops and boutiques, attended small gatherings, all while fully inhabiting her. Each outing was a test. Some glances curious, some approving, some indifferent. Every interaction was a tiny victory, a quiet affirmation that I could exist in the world as my full self. I started to notice the subtle changes in myself. My steps became lighter, more confident. My gestures more deliberate. My laughter, once restrained, now rang freely. I experimented with different styles, different colors, and each outfit seemed to bring out a new facet of who I was. Strangers' reactions varied, but over time I realized that what mattered most wasn't how the world perceived me. It was how I perceived myself. Each smile I returned, each subtle nod, each quiet moment of recognition in someone else's eyes reinforced the version of me I was finally allowing to breathe. By the time I returned home each evening, the apartment felt warmer, more intimate. I lingered in front of the mirror, studying her. The reflection that had once startled me, now familiar, comforting, even thrilling. "I am really doing this," I whispered, voice soft but confident. "I am really being her." And in that quiet reflection, I realized something I hadn't before. This wasn't about hiding or playing. This was about stepping fully into myself, about daring to exist without apology, about exploring the person I had been too afraid to meet for so long. Each outing, each small public experiment, each subtle victory built a foundation of confidence that no fear could fully shake. The city that had once seemed intimidating now became a stage not for performance but for authentic existence. And with every step I took, every smile I received, and every glance I returned, I began to understand that the transformation wasn't just in the clothes, the makeup, or the posture. It was inside me. A quiet, unstoppable shift toward freedom, acceptance, and undeniable selfhood. The mirror at home no longer reflected a secret. It reflected possibility. And I was ready to see just how far I could go. Weeks of quiet victories gave way to a tension I hadn't anticipated. Confidence is a fragile thing, easily cracked by the gaze of others, and I was about to test its limits. At work, subtle shifts began to unsettle me. Lingering glances from coworkers, brief pauses in conversations, hushed whispers. They all felt magnified. Each laugh in the break room, each casual greeting, carried a weight that pressed on my chest. My careful control over my image now felt like walking on a tightrope over a canyon. One misstep, one word, and the world I had built for myself could unravel. Then the call came. My manager requested I come to her office. Alone. My stomach twisted. My pulse spiked. The blinds were drawn, casting the room in muted light. Silence stretched between us like a taut rope. Every instinct screamed at me to hide, to retreat, to pretend that none of this had ever happened. "You've changed," she said finally, her tone calm but probing. My throat tightened. I don't know what you mean," I stammered. My words sounded fragile, brittle. She studied me carefully, as if weighing the truth in my expression. "You seem different. More yourself, maybe. But also, carrying something heavy." The heat rose in my cheeks. My heart pounded in my ears. How much do they know? Can they tell? I felt the old impulse to lie, to tuck myself away into the safety of denial, to pretend that nothing had shifted, that I was still the quiet, invisible person I had been for so long. But the version of me I had discovered, the one I had nurtured in the privacy of my apartment, in the streets, in cafes, refused to stay hidden. "I've been hiding," I admitted, my voice shaking. "From myself. For a long time." The words were terrifying, trembling through me as if they had a life of their own. I told her about the clothes, the evenings spent exploring, the thrill, the fear, the liberation. My confession poured out, unfiltered, raw, and trembling, a torrent I hadn't realized I had been holding in. For a heartbeat I expected judgment, a pause, a frown. Instead she nodded slowly, gently. "Thank you for trusting me," she said. "You don't need to hide who you are to be valued here." Relief was overwhelming. My chest unclenched, my muscles softened. Tears pricked the corners of my eyes, but this time they were not shameful. They were cleansing, liberating. I realized, in that quiet office, that the confrontation wasn't about her judgment, or about anyone else's perception. It was about me. My courage. My willingness to risk everything I had known for a chance at authenticity. I left the office with a strange, exhilarating lightness in my step. The city seemed to glow, each movement more vivid, each sound sharper, each moment alive. I understood then that hiding had never been safety. Safety had been an illusion. Freedom and self-acceptance were earned only when you dared to be seen. By the time I returned home, the city lights painting long reflections across my apartment floor, I understood something profound. I had a choice. Hide behind old habits and expectations, or step fully into the person I had spent years discovering. And for the first time I chose myself. That evening I didn't rush. I wanted to feel every heartbeat, to savor the quiet triumph of surviving the confrontation, of existing fully in the person I had been too afraid to be. I stood in my bedroom, staring at the drawer of clothes that had once been a secret, almost forbidden. The soft fabrics called to me, but this time I didn't approach them with trembling hands or tentative curiosity. I moved deliberately, reverently, like a traveler returning home after a long, arduous journey. I slid into the blouse and skirt I had worn during my first public outing. The silk and chiffon flowed over my skin, familiar now, intimate in a way that made my chest swell with comfort and pride. I adjusted the hem, checked the reflection in the mirror, and for the first time I smiled, not nervously, not apologetically, but with quiet, unwavering certainty. "This is me," I whispered, voice soft but firm. The mirror no longer startled me. It no longer reflected a stranger. She was me, fully, undeniably, and I was learning to inhabit her with ease. The curve of my shoulders, the tilt of my head, the soft sway of my movements, they all belonged to me, and I was no longer apologizing for it. I stepped outside again that night, into a world that still hummed with traffic, laughter, and life. But this time the city felt different. The lights didn't intimidate me. The people didn't frighten me. Every step I took was deliberate, confident, and unapologetic. I noticed the way my skirt swayed as I walked, the way my hair caught the light, the subtle expressions I could now carry without fear. I visited the cafe I had first dared enter weeks ago. The barista greeted me with her warm, easy smile, the same one that had sent a thrill through me before. "Hey, good to see you," she said, and something inside me flared with affirmation. She didn't need to know the struggle, the hidden nights, the fears I had conquered. Her acknowledgement, simple and kind, felt like a quiet victory. I began to build a circle of support. Friends who celebrated my courage, who saw me fully and unconditionally. Conversations flowed freely, laughter came easily, and I no longer felt the weight of a double life pressing against me. At work, I stopped compartmentalizing, stopped hiding. I let myself exist fully, honestly. I spoke with confidence, laughed without restraint, and discovered that people respected me not less, but more for the courage it took to be myself. Standing before the mirror later that night, I studied her. The reflection that had once startled me, that had made my chest tighten with fear. Now she radiated strength, grace, and authenticity. Every small gesture, every nuance of posture, every flicker of expression was mine, reclaimed and celebrated. She saw something new in me, I murmured, thinking of the barista, the colleague, the strangers, the quiet moments of recognition. But now I saw it too. I had discovered the person I had been hiding, and I had chosen her. Chosen me. And in that choice I found freedom, pride, and a profound sense of belonging, to myself and to the world I was finally brave enough to enter. The city hummed outside, indifferent yet beautiful, and I walked through it fully, unapologetically, joy threading through every step. For the first time I realized, transformation isn't about hiding or performing. It's about claiming yourself fully without apology and daring to be seen. I had stepped out of fear. I had stepped into authenticity. And it felt like flying. Someone had told me a year ago that a single evening, one small impulsive choice, could change everything. I wouldn't have believed them. Life, after all, had been routine, predictable, safe. And yet it only took stepping into her, the person I had long buried, to feel truly alive for the first time. Transformation isn't always loud. Sometimes it comes softly, in the brush of silk across your skin, the tilt of your head, the reflection of someone you've always been but never allowed yourself to see. For me, it started in a mirror, with hesitant hands and trembling fingers, and grew into steps through a city that had always seemed too bright, too fast, too exposing. I didn't become someone else. I became whole. I became her, and in becoming her, I became me. Every motion, every laugh, every subtle expression I had learned in secret became a declaration. I exist. I matter. I belong. There are still days when fear whispers at the edges, when doubt sneaks into quiet moments, when old habits tug at me like shadows. But now I know what it feels like to meet yourself, truly meet yourself, and to let others see that truth without shame. Once you feel it, even fear feels small, almost laughable. To anyone watching this, anyone who feels that quiet, persistent pull, the tug of curiosity, of identity, of possibility, hear me. You are not broken. You are not wrong. You are not alone. The fear, the hesitation, the doubt, are just the first steps toward discovering who you are. Sometimes, the thing you are most afraid to try, to wear, to express, is exactly the thing that reveals the version of yourself you have long denied. That version, once hidden, once silenced, is waiting patiently. Waiting for you to finally see. Waiting for you to finally step forward. And when you do, when you finally face the mirror and the world and yourself, you will understand something profound. That authenticity, courage, and self-acceptance are not gifts. They are choices. And once you choose them, the person staring back at you will never feel like a stranger again. I look in the mirror now and smile. Not just because of her, the reflection I have come to love, but because of me. The person brave enough to step into the unknown, to embrace the truth, to live openly, fully, unapologetically. The city hums outside, indifferent yet beautiful. And I step through it, alive, free, and whole.